comic book series Unfamiliar has 2 volumes out that you can buy right now, so check the link in the description if you're interested. Okay, thank you, bye. Hey everybody, it's LavenderTowne, and today I'm going to be turning TikTok genres into characters. It'll make sense, just trust me. Okay, so the first TikTok type or TikTok genre I wanted to make into a character is water talk. Now, I think this was more news like a year ago maybe. There were a lot of commentary channels talking about this particular type of TikTok content where primarily people would put a ton of different packets of water flavoring in different combinations to make a super flavored, super colorful water that they would then drink and make new recipes for each other. And these recipes could get pretty crazy. A lot of them are actually trying to like recreate the flavor of something like desserty or really decadent. This community has got a lot of different criticisms leveled at it. The biggest one for some reason is just a linguistic thing. A lot of people think that by the time they're done with all their different add-ins, it's no longer water, it's more like some kind of drink or juice. I don't think it's juice because to me juice always means like fruit juice, but I can understand how you would feel that way. However, I don't think it's really harmful necessarily to call this water, especially because I think the origin of this community is a lot of people who needed to up their water intake and were clearly, for whatever reason, really having trouble with that. So they're just trying to make it more fun, and they're thinking about it as the water intake that they're supposed to be having. I don't know what the effect would be if you drank so much of this like fake sweetener and, you know, food coloring and stuff. Like I'm not really an expert at that, but I do think that like calling it water, it's not a big deal. I do think it's a little bit weird, but I think it's okay to be a little weird on the internet. The other criticisms I've heard about this community are that it's like kind of diet culture-y because it's like a lot of these like calorie-free like chemical packets and stuff. I could definitely see that if people are trying to replace meals with these drinks, but I haven't seen as much of that, so I can't really speak on that either. Honestly, before I saw there was all this commentary about it, my only reaction to these water talk videos was that they're a little too high energy for me and a little too loud. I think that that's really common at like the top of every type of genre. It's really hard to make it on the internet if you're not being like really bombastic and talking fast and like being kind of crazy. But I do think that part of it is because some of these things are caffeinated, so sometimes I feel like people are actually like really hyped up on their special water. I definitely wanted to include that super high energy kind of quality in the character that I'm designing, so she does look really crazy and energetic, and I just wanted to make sure to have a lot of colors. I think one of the appeals of this type of content is that oftentimes the drinks end up looking like a lot of crazy colors. There's even like some layering, sometimes people add edible glitter. It can really look like a potion, and I realized that's what I like about it. These videos remind me of when I would try to make potions as a little girl. You know, when you'd like mix all the sodas together, or like even when you're out at recess and you're just like putting like grass and mud and stuff, and you're like, that's a potion that will heal you if you're a hurt wolf or whatever we were playing outside. So yeah, I like the potion making element of it. I think that that's cute and fun. I definitely wanted to include the little powder packets. They're kind of in like a holster on her hip, like she's ready to go and put those in at any time. I did kind of like a fake Stanley cup and a Tarani syrup in each hand, and I also put some ice cube kind of details on her hair, as well as some little Skittle clips in her hair, because I saw so many people drinking the Skittles powder to make Skittles water. And the yellow substance in the background was supposed to just be like a fun decorative element, but now I think it symbolizes all the pee you'd have to pee if you were drinking all these waters. Sorry, that's gross. Anyway, and here she is with her blue tongue. She's very peppy. I imagine she would be super loud and super high energy, but probably pretty fun. Definitely someone who is a collector, maybe a Disney pass holder, and probably the type of person who reads those random clickbait articles about how chocolate's actually good for you and really believes it. Next up is one of my favorite TikTok communities, and that would be Book Talk. Book Talk has also got a fair bit of criticism lately. I do feel like anytime the girlies are in communion with each other, the commentary channels start licking their lips. Not to be too harsh to the commentary channels, but I do really feel like sometimes things are a bit overblown. The main criticisms against Book Talk are, of course, that Book Talk heavily favors stuff like tropes and romance and romantasy, and that's not to everyone's taste. I'm with you there. I understand. I don't read romance. I don't even really read a ton of like that type of fantasy. So I get the vibe of like being annoyed that so many of the recommendations are just versions of that. But on the other hand, like you can also find indie book talk creators that only talk about horror. Like that's one of my favorite book talkers, only talks about like horror recommendations, and that works for me because that's what I like to read. But anyhow, for this book talk character, I kind of wanted her to symbolize like all the book talk, so she will definitely be a bit more of a romantic type. She also, of course, has a huge pile of books on her at all times. There was also some criticism of like book talk and like overconsumption, like encouraging people to buy too many books. I feel you on most overconsumption topics. Like I do think that fashion and a lot of other categories we are like buying too much, but I think that buying too many books it's not a bad problem to have, especially because once you're done reading them, you can always put them in a little library or pass them on to a friend. I think that keeping the book industry healthy is actually like really great for everybody, certainly for the authors and certainly for your friends. But definitely check out your library, of course, if you don't want to spend so much money. It's just a great community. I just love reading. I've loved reading my whole life, and I'm just really happy that there's like a social media space for this type of thing, because I felt like in the earlier parts of the internet there were definitely like forums for like specific books that you were into or something, like fandom kind of websites and stuff, but to see this like big outpouring of people who are just like, I love to read, like that's kind of a new thing, and I think that overall that's a really good thing. So anyway, there's definitely a lot of like competition in book talk of like reading a lot of books and like making sure that you're not falling behind, you're reading everything that people are all hyped about. So I definitely wanted her to be kind of like drowning under this huge pile of books, and I also changed up her irises as I like to do. I put the little ABCD into one of her irises because she do be reading, and a little heart on the other side. I kind of wanted her head to look like a book. This sounds so dumb, but this is this is what I like to do. Okay, I'm gonna color it so her front bangs are like this like papery white color, and then she has like this like jellyfish cut over the top that kind of is red, kind of like it kind of looks like a book is like open over her head. I don't know if we're seeing the vision. Please let me know if you're seeing the vision. So I also put on a little barrette on her that are like the stars. People like to talk about their opinions on books. That's one of the most fun parts of book talk. I know that some authors don't like it, partially because it's like pushing the publishing industry in very specific directions, and also because sometimes I'm sure authors see themselves on like the worst books of the year lists and stuff like that, and that's gotta hurt. But overall, I do feel like book talk is generally a net good, even if it does kind of hype up a lot of books that I don't personally like, and even though it does encourage maybe people to read a little too fast or, not engage with books as deeply because they're trying to get as many books off their TBR and, defeat their reading challenges and stuff. And since I'm also a gamer and see how gamers interact with the creators of the media that they like, I think that book talk is still like long down the list of like most toxic kind of like fan and creator interactions, if that makes sense. Yeah, anyway, I tried to stick to a really naturalistic and kind of autumny color palette for her, and I think she looked pretty adorable in the end. She's definitely very cheerful, and I don't know how she's holding all that with just one arm. Next up, I had to do a character based on like the thirst traps that are everywhere on TikTok, but I wanted to do this very specific type because it's so wild and I've really never seen it anywhere else. It's these weird thirst traps where it's also blended with a cooking video. It's like binging with Babish Burlesque. It's like Bobby Lingerie, Bobby Flight. I'll stop. It is kind of like it was designed in a lab to go viral, where it's like, well, thirst trap videos are doing well on TikTok and food videos do really well kind of everywhere, so we'll just combine them and they'll do great. And to be fair, it did kind of work. I think these videos got around a lot, mainly because people thought that they were like a little too crazy and funny. But regardless, I think a lot of them did go viral, so their original plan was a success. Believe it or not, I actually didn't make this connection until just now, but it is kind of reminding me of Shokugeki no Soma or Food Wars, that anime where like there's inexplicable fan service despite it being all about cooking. It's like in a world where cooking is the most important thing and there's an elite high school all about cooking. I like to think that this character actually works in like a Michelin star restaurant, and they keep him around because he's just so talented, like he's amazing at the job, but they have to keep telling him that like he needs to put pants on underneath his apron or else the health inspector is going to shut them down and they're gonna lose their Michelin star. But he's just like, ooh, I'm such a little scamp, but you can't stop me. That's the vision I have for this character. I also notice in a lot of these thirst trap videos, like if you're a germaphobe, there's no way that they're gonna work on you because you're just gonna be so upset by the fact that he's always like touching and licking everything. I used to think that this was actually only one guy, but there are actually a couple of these TikTok chefs on the platform, and yeah, it's a fascinating subgenre. At first I thought that he and the water talk character might get along. There's something about their audaciousness and their like specificity, but the more I think about it, I actually think they might be arch nemesises. I don't think they would like each other, partially because they just have such wildly different approaches to the content making, as well as I think that water talk might actually be a bit more shy about this sort of thing. I don't know why, I get a vaguely puritanical vibe from the character, and this character obviously is like an insane exhibitionist, so maybe they wouldn't get along so much after all. I do want to pick out names for these guys like I often do in my character designing, like turning object or whatever into a character design video, so please leave any name suggestions down in the comments, and as usual I will pick my favorites after the video has been out for a little while. I don't know if it's just me, because I know there is a lot of thirst trap content that does really well and I think people like it earnestly, but for me personally, when the content is going so far out of its way to be alluring, sometimes it sort of flips over on itself and becomes extremely unappealing to me. I don't know what that is, maybe I'm just a contrarian, but anyway, here he is all finished up. Let's move on to our next character. This next type of TikTok is the street interview TikTok, or like the ambush interview TikTok, where oftentimes it's just like a guy with a microphone or his phone sort of wandering up to people and asking them things to try to generate like a quick funny clip for a TikTok or like a big reaction. This feels to me like a younger brother of like the prank channel, like the YouTube prank channel. This is like the baby version of that. These are very successful, especially when they have some kind of theme. One of the ones that actually went kind of viral and was pretty popular for a while was like asking random cool looking people what they're listening to. A lot of these styles of video are scripted, which I think some younger viewers don't pick up on. Like there's a lot of situations like the very first TikTok I showed here where someone is clearly posing and is aware that the camera is there, and the camera couldn't have really been set up there without them noticing, but it's still presented as if it is really organically happening and it's candid. Some of them are genuinely candid, and the way that content is generated is by the interviewer asking something that's really crazy, that's definitely going to get a reaction out of just about anyone. Those tend to really rub me the wrong way because like at a certain point it just feels like harassment. Some of the ones that I do like are the ones like the music one. Again, I'm not sure how often those are legit or how often they're actually scripted. It's really hard to know these days, but I do like seeing like a little clip of music that somebody's listening to or likes, and you know, imagining that they're going about their day with this different soundtrack and everyone's kind of on a different wavelength, even as they walk, you know, right past each other in the street. I think that that's fun, but in general I think this character would be quite pushy and quite like an aggressive class clown, somebody who really needs to have some attention on them and who really wants big exciting things to be happening in their life at all times, no matter what the cost. Now, I feel like if this character has a nemesis in our main cast, it would probably be Book Talk. I can imagine that they just straight up wouldn't get along. You can even say that they'd be enemies. After all, this character is so brash, so loud, so outgoing, such a popular guy, whereas she's a quiet intellectual who likes to spend time by herself, an introvert who loves to read. You know, they're really opposites. Like, there's just absolutely no way that they could ever get along. Unless, of course, by some mysterious twist of chance, they both find that they need to start fake dating each other for the entire Christmas season, just to pretend so that his ex thinks that he's over her and her family stops hassling her about never going on dates. Well, they may actually end up falling in love on accident and become enemies to lovers. It's really not clear at this point. Okay, that kind of went off the rails at the end there, but I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Here are all the characters together. Let me know if you have any ideas for names for them, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you so much to my wonderful patrons and members, including Stop Spinning, Silva Soul, West Art Channel, A Playful Fawn, Prince Piplup III, Mash In It, Forco, Honey Kitten 18, Nee Nico, Novel Goblin, Lauro, Data, Lily McFarlane, Artist James, Skitten, Gold Pikachu, Among Us Skibbity, Azri Cryptid, Glee, Hoodie Doodle, River D Goblin, Gato de Luz, Goodbye Number 4, Raz Tarosh, Becca, Kobe Octo VTuber, Graveyard Moss, Grexius, Maddie Momo, The Midwestern Menace, CB, Lucia Majiki, Live Live, Ravens Crow, Zosalot, T-Hill Music, Jabber Dabber Doo, Light Julie, Kadaria, Astral Fox Art, The Expressive Poker Face, Tsubaki, Cutie Pie, Kola, JJ Jade, and of course, blah 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 blah.